Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns for day 24 of Around the League in 30 days. As we are coming down the home stretch, and we are staying in California to talk about the Giants. My name is Tyler, Will, John, and Bobby all here again to discuss the 24th team in the list. And again, boys, we're getting down to it. The Giants had an interesting offseason. I think some people were surprised that they got Willie Adames, but they also lost some talent. So how good did they actually get? We will talk about that in a second. But first, let's look at the projected lineup for the Giants in 2025. Lamont Wade leading it off again. Willie Adames in that two spot. Jung Ho Lee in that third spot. As of recording on St. Patrick's Day today, he is going for an MRI on his back. So that is going to be definitely key to how good their success is going to be. Matt Chapman, Elliot Ramos in the 4-5. Tyler Fitzgerald down in that 9 slot after having a really nice breakout season for them. Last year, Sam Huff comes in on the bench as a backup catcher, and then looking at that rotation, they do add Justin Verlander to the mix. Logan Webb, Robbie Ray coming back from, well, he did come back last year from Tommy John, but only for about a month. Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, Lou Trevino comes into the bullpen. Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers, and Camilo Duvall closing down games for them. Duvall, we'll see. He's felt like he's kind of fell off the last couple of years from what he used to be. Such a great closer. We'll see if he can recapture that. But that is the Giants. Opening day roster, projected opening day roster for 2025. And we start with the headlines of, did the Giants really get any better this offseason? Again, they signed Adames, they signed Verlander, but you lose Snell, you lose Conforto. So, I mean, Will, the Adames signing is nice, but did this team really get any better?
No, John's
No.
turn. I
Okay.
mean, fine, I'll talk. All right, I'll
I'll
keep this
do my
short. Adamas,
job.
I'll do my job again. Adamas is better than Conforto. Verlander right now is a lot worse than Snell. Kind of evens out, I feel like, in that regard. The success of this team is how their young guys develop and take the next step. I'm mainly thinking about Ramos and Fitzgerald. I see one of them continuing a good upward trend, the other one taking a step back. And being in the tough division that they are, I am surprised in the first place that they actually got 80 games last year, or won 80 games last year. When I saw that, I was kind of like, really? I don't see them really getting better than that this year.
John, are you surprised that, for a team that has historically spent money, you kind of look at this roster and look, there is some good pieces there. Chapman and of course, Jung Ho Lee, but are you surprised that this team doesn't look more competitive going into the next season?
Yeah, they didn't seem like they really wanted to do anything this year. Honestly, I almost want to say that they decided, hey, we're gonna roll it. We're gonna roll with our older guys, and we're gonna hope for the best. And they're just kind of trying to throw out this season. I don't know if maybe like they're hoping that their prospects are will just develop in the minors, and then they'll worry about bringing them up, or what the deal is. But they seem kind of like they're just spinning their wheels, might be the best way to put it.
Well,
Year or two is what they want.
do you think that this roster, we kind of have this look about this roster because of the division they play in? Like, if you put this team up, in say another division, would we feel better about them? Because they do have some pieces.
Depends on the division. If you say like the East, sure, they look terrible still. Put them in the Central, everyone looks terrible or about the same. So anything's possible.
Well,
I think it's, I mean, I was actually a little higher on this team last year than I probably should have been. I think I even had him a couple times as like a potential final wild card spot team.
Oh, I know
And
I
they
did.
weren't that.
yeah,
I
once
was
they
also
sign
very down
Snell,
on the Padres.
yeah.
But I guess the thing is I see them more as it's a like I said, it's a lot of young talent that you're just trying to see when they advance. And I think the moves this offseason showed that they believe they are close to being contenders. I don't think they view themselves as necessarily 100% in the fold this year. Otherwise, I feel like they may have tried to be more aggressive with other moves, even if it's not a signing. Maybe they try to trade for someone. It's like Verlander is someone that he's definitely got the repertoire, even in his later years, to be a really, really good pitcher and even potential Cy Young. Not been the case last year, wasn't quite the case the last couple years, but he's someone that is more of a flyer pick than someone that you're like, we want this guy to be the guy on our team. And Adames is a nice pickup, especially as he's going to go alongside the left side of the infield with Chapman for a while. But he's still not, to me, he's still not an it guy. He's a very effective player, an above average shortstop in a lot of areas, but he's still not the big guy you want to lead the team. So it still feels like, to me, in the end, they're working their way up. So give them a couple years, I'd say. Maybe if they take a huge leap this year, then maybe next year they could even be considered wild card contenders.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're not spending money, right? Like they are. It just feels like a lot of the times they're not spreading their resources as much. Like they're kind of going in after one guy. Like this year, Adames was one of the premier free agents this year, and they ended up getting him, but didn't really add around him in that sense. Again, I do look at that like 2, 3, 4 they potentially have if Jung Ho Lee can stay healthy. We'll see what the MRI comes back as. I think we're going to get more information tomorrow, March 18th. But like that's not too bad. And then you got Elliot Ramos too, who had a breakout year last year. So, maybe he can stay around. But I don't know. It feels like they could have potentially spread their wings a little bit more and maybe brought in another guy. I know like I mean, maybe this was far fetched, but like I was thinking at the beginning of the offseason, like Pete Alonso could slot in there first base. I thought they even might give like Paul Goldschmidt a shot. They stick with Wade there. So I don't know. It's like it's not a money spending problem with them. It's just I feel like, getting a guy like that is good. And Adames after the season will be 30. So he's not terribly old, but you want to build a good roster around a guy like that, when he's in his prime. So, yeah, we'll see with that. And then looking on the offense, the pitching side, excuse me, um, they bring in Justin Verlander, who we can all say is a Hall of Fame pitcher, generational guy, and now is at the point of his career where he's definitely on the back nine, and he's showing that wear and tear over the last couple of years. But if he comes in and produces for them, this is low key like a pretty good rotation. So, John, I'll ask you this. I mean, do you think that Verlander can be like a sneaky addition for this team?
I think he offers the veteran presence that can help a lot of these young guys more than you're looking for him to be your ace or your effective piece. I think it's more so, look, let's not sugarcoat it. He's 42 years old. He last season he had a 5.48 ERA with a with I just lost my notes. Crap.
His numbers were shit. There, I answered what John's note said.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
mean,
With a 5.48 ERA. Look, the point is that this is not the Cy Young pitcher that you once had, but he can still be and still offer that, that knowledge and pass it on to these young guys at least a little bit. And who knows, maybe if they luck into a playoff spot, I don't think they will. Maybe if they luck into a playoff spot, he's been there, he's done that multiple times, in fact. So maybe that can help them. But you know, honestly, this is more so to me just signing a veteran talent just for the heck of it, just to give your guys a mentor to look up to for a season.
I mean, yeah, and well, I don't think we'll ever see him as a sub 4 ERA guy anymore, to be honest. But if he performs around that, or maybe a little bit above that, with Robbie Ray and Logan Webb there, like, do you kind of see this rotation? Maybe I don't. I don't know. Playoffs to me seems far-fetched, but do you think like that rotation could get them in the conversation?
Nope.
You're killing these answers today. Okay, fair
I mean,
enough.
what do you want me to say?
He's
Nope.
not putting up with your crap, Ty. He's
Wow.
not putting up with it.
I mean, I don't know. I think John is right in the fact that he can, help out the other guys on the staff. He's not going to be, the a top 10 pitcher at any point anymore, but I think that he can, if he can be around that four, like, and they get
He's
production
around
from
the
those other
four. He's a
guys.
number four, number five. That's
But
about it. You
but
want that
that's
step from the young. You want the step up from Harrison, not from Verlander.
Yeah, and that's where I was gonna go with that, right? Like if they can get that with in conjunction with as you said, like Harrison stepping up, um Hicks, I don't know. I mean, it has potential to be a decent rotation, but we'll see. I mean,
Frankly, I think this benefits Webb. I think this really could benefit him having that
Webb's already a
veteran.
really good pitcher. I don't see
I
him
know,
getting
and
that
it
much
could make
better.
him even better having that mentor in the
I don't see it.
clubhouse.
Webb had, by his standards, it was a little rough last year. It wasn't terrible, but I mean, you're talking about a guy who was in like the Cy Young conversation back in 22. So, um,
He finished 2 in the Cy Young in 2023.
or 2023, yeah, excuse me. So,
Which I found shocking. I was
He
shocked to begin
finished
with. He was in the top
6th
three.
last year.
really, okay, yeah. I mean, so he is a pitcher that can be, a top ace in the league. So I don't know. We'll have to see what that staff can do in conjunction with their lineup, and a lot of that is going to be based around what you're going to get from some of these, lesser superstar names, if you will, in a guy like Tyler Fitzgerald or Elliot Ramos, and those are guys, Will, that broke out in 2024. What do you expect from these guys going into the 25 season? Can they take that next step?
They can. I have a little more faith in Fitzgerald. Both of them were slightly against, well, Ramos more so than Fitzgerald, but both of them were slightly against what their trends were in the minors. Big thing for Ramos was he was this huge power bat that he wasn't quite as high of in the minors. So I definitely feel like there's going to be a step back. If anything, just because of either pitchers trying something different, him thinking he's a home run hitter, and he kind of gets learns his lesson in a sophomore season. Fitzgerald, um, sorry, I'm reading my notes because they didn't make sense to me. I see him more as I see him trying to be a bit more of a power guy. His average was a little higher than his would seem like norms. He had a 260 season a couple years ago in the minors, 220s also. So my thinking is as the way it seems to be with young guys nowadays is they try to make him power hitters. So he might be trying to push more for 20 home runs, and if something like that happens, his average I think would drop to the 240s. If he can stay more contact approach, then I think he's gonna be pleasantly surprised. Thanks Mariners logo in the corner. Um
Turn that
so
off.
Nah, he didn't. Now we're talking about the Mariners. All right, so here's the thing about their third base situation. Um, sneak peek the next episode. So
Tune in
I see
next
both.
week.
So I mean, both of them showed very promising things last year. I was really big on Ramos, especially around the All Star break, because I was big on he should be on the All Star team. I am not confident that I feel like they're going to continue the same high trends that they did last year, but I think there's definitely promise for at least one of them, if not both, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Fitzgerald's stats are interesting, right? Because he played 96 games last year. I believe he was like he didn't start the season on the roster last year, I believe. I believe he was called up. 15 home runs in 96 games. Had a strikeout percentage of 31%. So that's
Lovely.
not great. But it's weird because his BABIP is 380. His average was 280. So like it felt like he was, strikeout or a home run guy, which it's kind of interesting to get from your second baseman or now second baseman that he's gonna be. But I think that's something a season that he could build on. I'm not familiar with this team as much as other teams, so I don't know if this was like a top prospect for them, but he did come up last year and provide a spark for them, which was great. And then Ramos as well. I mean, 22 home runs last year for him. As you said, we were kind of talking about him in that All-Star conversation. He batted 269 as well. So, John, there is some pieces here that they have that can mold around Adames and Chapman. But they got to continue to they got to be consistent with it. They got to show it year after year.
Yeah, I want to see if I'm the Giants, I definitely want to see their progression. I mean, it so the on base percentage for Fitzgerald is a little better than league average. The on base percentage for Ramos is 322, which is a little less than league average, but their batting averages are relatively um, I don't want to say average. I would say for the amount of home runs that they each hit, they're relatively impressive to me with 15 home runs and then 22. But granted, that's only in 121 games for Ramos and 96 games for Fitzgerald. So that has to be taken into account. What I want to see them do is take the next step and really progress into maybe the best way to put it is progress into the top prospects that you are. Be a part of this team and be, consistent here. And I think that's really what they're looking for here in San Francisco as you start to transition from your older guys such as, Verlander or maybe even Chapman as you or even Yastrzemski, and just really trying to phase in this next generation of players so that way you can make another run at the World Series like you did in the early 2010s. Because you should be able to build a core around Willie Adames, at least while you have him under contract.
I think
Bring,
everyone in the West should just like trade everyone away and build up the greatest farm systems in the world. Because let's just face it, you have the Dodgers, you're fucked.
well,
I
I mean
mean, might as
that
well just wait till 2030 something when they're bankrupt and have to
Colorado
pay
Rockies have
Shohei.
what's up. The Rockies know what they're doing. They're taking their time, and then when the Dodgers are done, they'll strike.
I mean to
I'm
be fair
convinced the
though,
Rockies are just smoking weed in the corner. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting.
Live life to the fullest.
to be fair though to the Giants, like it's that, but it's also like they have two other teams that in that division alone that are better than them, or we think they're going to be better than them. And
Substantially.
and again, like that's why I said earlier, like if you put this team in another division, how would they do? Because I don't think this team is all that bad. They're definitely
I
very
still don't think they make the
average.
playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but I think they're very average. But you put this team in another division where they're not playing the Dodgers, the D-backs, and the Padres as much as they are. Again, I know it's easy to say put them in the Central because the Central sucks, but like, bro, even put them in like the AL West, like in that, and they would do so much better in that division. So
If this is the AL West, I think you could have the conversation of they could win this division.
honestly, I
But
do
this is the
too.
NL West, Ty.
Yes.
So the problem is that because you're in the National League, you have so many teams that are higher than them and are closer to playoffs that I don't think this season you're even reaching the playoffs in a year or two. Definitely, I'm picking them to be a
Definitely
wild card
almost.
team.
Maybe.
I maybe. All right, bring this all together now. So we've kind of already said our piece about what we think about them with the playoffs. Pacoda is projecting them to have about 78 wins going into this next season. And as Will said earlier, he was kind of surprised, and even I was kind of surprised by their win total of last year. So with Chapman there, who had a solid season last year, with Adamas there, who had a solid season last year, what can this team really be in 2025? Can they be on the edge? How many wins? I mean, the 78 will 78 wins fair to you? Do you think they're surpassing it? Do you think they're about that?
No, I think 78 is fair. If they surpass it, it's only going to be about 500. I don't see them getting much above it. If they do, it's because certain young guys took really big steps and ended up being potential. I don't want to say faces of the franchise, but like potential signs of like what their
Superstars.
elite potential. Yeah, we'll go superstars.
And then, like, John, kind of same question to you. I think we're kind of all in agreement that they aren't making the playoffs, but you know, I was gonna say, can they be better than last year? But they actually had a pretty okay season last year. But do you see them being on par with what they were last year?
I definitely see them being on par. I think the only reason Pacoda has them having less wins than last year is because of the loss of Snell. In all honesty, I don't know why they are factoring that as a loss of 4 games. No, not 4 games. Sorry, that was their losses. A loss of 2 extra games, but okay. Anyway, in all honesty, I could see them being exactly this around 500. I even think they could have a winning record in terms of like 83, 84, 85 wins, but it really, I don't see them being in the playoff conversation, especially with the amount of teams that I think are going to come out of the East, and especially with the Padres in the West themselves. I mean, and you can even make an argument for the Diamondbacks themselves that could be above them. So, like I said, this year, no, I think they're around 500. But in like 2 years, I think that if they get their young core together, I think they could really be something to watch.
Tough road for the Giants this year, but again, as we kind of said, I think they do have the pieces to be something down the road and in the coming years. So that is all for us here on day 24, excuse me, of Around the League in 30 Days. You can follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns, Big League Breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel for more content as we are going to day 25 next of Around the League in 30 Days and we're heading up north to Seattle. So don't miss that one. But until then, we will see you next time.
Guys, wear your seatbelt. We're almost done.